Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Well, I'm not the doctor, but I work for the doctor. My name is Justin Mirigliani, and it's great to have you here for my Talking Head show. Hopefully you've just watched our show called Entrepreneur and So Much More, which are every first Monday of the month at 5 p.m. and then following are the my Talking Head show. And what I do for a living is I train people in all kinds of different software. I teach Microsoft products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Project, Visio, Publisher, Adobe products, all those good things that help us get our work done through the day, the productivity tools. But I also teach soft skills classes, project management, time management, coaching for excellence. There's so many of them. Sometimes you can't even remember all the titles that there are out there, but I teach a lot of these soft skills classes. And my company name is Just For You Training and Consulting. Our website is www.justforyoutc.com. And my email address is justin@justforyoutc.com. And my cell number is 610-324-5545. And what we do at Just For You is not only the training, but we also do consultation. We help people build spreadsheets. We help people build projects in Microsoft Project. We help people with all kinds of issues that come up in the workplace. And it's part of the really, I consider myself a productivity expert, somebody who helps people become more productive with their time. And that kind of leads me into what we're going to be doing in this session. So for the next half hour, we're going to be talking about time management. And before I do, one other piece of business I'd like to cover is the charity that I run. Back in 2002, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and it's inflammatory bowel disease similar to Crohn's disease. And since then, I've had a major surgery where I had my entire large intestine removed, and I live life now as an ostomate. I have an ileostomy, and I have a charity to help folks in both those communities, the inflammatory bowel disease and ostomy communities. And the name of the charity is Checkmates Charitable Association, www.checkmatescharity.com. And my email address there is justin@checkmatescharity.com. So with that, I want to start off with the presentation. So allow me to share my screen here. And this is typically a 4-hour class. So obviously we're not going to be going through 4 hours worth of information in just a half an hour. But what I want to talk to you about is time management. And I want to start it off. Let me go back to the first slide about what is time management. And time management is the process of planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on specific activities, especially to increase effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. One thing that you got to remember when you're talking about time management is not just getting things done, or at least not just working, but doing them efficiently and effectively. And I think that's something that we miss sometimes. I know that in the 2000s, especially, the term multitasking became vogue. Everybody talked about multitasking, and we brag about that. We talk about how important it is to multitask and to be able to do more things in less time. And it's a fallacy. It really isn't true. Nobody multitasks. It really is not a thing. I know we believe it is, but it's not. Multitasking is simply you and I jumping around from task to task very quickly. So I go from one task, to another, to another, to another, but I'm never doing two things at once. Go back to that slide here. I don't know how it progress. There we go. So you're never really doing two things at once. You're doing one thing at a time, but you're doing it in rapid succession. And is that the best way to do things? And the research actually tells us that no, usually the best way that we do things is to concentrate on that one thing and do it effectively, and then move on to something else and do that effectively as well. And we have so many time killers. Email is so important. It's a lifeline for most of us, myself included. I must get 50 to 100 emails a day, just like everybody else does. And a lot of it is junk, right? And a lot of it is stuff that we don't need to concentrate on. It's stuff that really doesn't we don't need to spend time on. And yet we check it obsessively, a lot of us. And that's something that really becomes a time waster. Think about if you're working on an Excel spreadsheet and you're really engrossed in it, and then you stop your momentum and you go and you check your email. And then you check your email for 2 or 3 minutes. You go back to Excel. Well, now you have to remember where you were when you left off, right? You have to remember where you were at that time. You have to remember what you were doing. You got to remember, what was connected to what cells were connected to the other stuff. It's just you lost your momentum and you have to build it up again. And then what happens? You build up your momentum, you're engrossed in your work, and then all of a sudden, boom, you check your email again in 20 minutes, and then you take 5 minutes to check your email and you go back to the Excel file. What if you worked on that Excel file for a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, or even 2 hours, and finished it? Actually got the Excel spreadsheet done and just spent your time doing that. And then you checked your email afterwards. Wouldn't that be a better use of your time? And the answer, as we can tell from the research, is yes. Yes. So one thing that I don't do is I don't have Outlook pop up with email notifications every time I get an email. I know a lot of us do that. A lot of us have Outlook and we get a pop up. And the problem with that is we feel compelled to go and check our email immediately. So my suggestion to you, especially with email, is set aside time, right? I'm going to check my email at 8 o'clock in the morning when I get to work, or 8:30, whatever time you get to work. I'm going to check it then. Yeah, I'm going to check my email again at 11:30. I'm going to check my email again at 1:30. I'm going to check my email again at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whatever. You set the times. And I'm only going to spend a certain amount of time on the email. I'm not going to spend a half an hour reading all the email. I'm gonna look at what I have. I'm gonna decide what I'm gonna act on. I'm gonna decide what I'm not gonna act on right now, and I'm gonna move on. And that is a better use of your time. You don't want to lose momentum. So let me go to another slide here and pull it up for you so you can see this a little bit better. You're the one who controls your time, not anything else. You control your time. You have to accomplish tasks. You have to get things done. And getting things half done doesn't cut it. If I have an Excel spreadsheet or I have a PowerPoint presentation or I have a Word document that I need to finish by the end of the day, it does me no good if I'm 75% complete by the end of the day. I have to accomplish that task. And the only way to do it is to concentrate on it, to actually work on that task. Yes, bad habits are usually the problem. Bad habits like excessively checking your email, having no set time to do so, checking your email just whenever an email comes in. If you hear a ding or if you see a pop up, boom, you're in Outlook checking your email, or social media, checking your phone and you see somebody responded to you in Facebook, having to check that immediately. I know it's hard to fight these habits. I realize that. That's why they're habits, right? Habits are things that we do habitually. Well, we have to break them. We have to break them if we want to be better at time management. Proper time management will enhance your work experience because you're going to get things done. You're going to feel more accomplished as you do that. And of course, the people who are working with you will also feel better about your work experience. So what happens when you do well with time? What is it that what benefits do you get? Stress control. One of the worst feelings for me, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm sure I'm like most people. One of the worst feelings is feeling that I have to get something done. I'm running out of time and there's not a thing I can do about it. That feeling of it's never going to get finished. And a lot of the time, that stress comes from we procrastinated too long in the beginning. We got into too many bad habits. And now we have the stress of having to get something done and potentially not being able to get it finished. That's a horrible feeling. And we can avoid that by being more in tune to how we use our time. A life balance. Dr. Jacqueline and I talk about this all the time, especially as entrepreneurs. We could easily have a life that is out of balance completely. And when I say that, I mean I'm a father. I'm a husband and a father. I have two daughters, 15 years old and just turned 11. And I need family time. Uh, Sometimes that means there's certain work moments that I have to pass up. Maybe some classes that I need to pass up. I'm going on vacation this coming Thursday. I'm going to take a week off. I'm not going to be doing any classes. Yes, I'm going to lose money. Yes, I'm going to lose business by not being there. But there has to be life balance. One of the last things that I want to do personally is be 75 years old and my kids are out of the house and they're having their own lives and looking back and saying, boy, I wish I would have spent more time with my kids and my wife. I don't want to look back that way. I want to say at 75 years old that yeah, I did do a lot of work and I did do a lot of good things in business, but I also had that balance where I spent time with my family and I didn't miss out on those things. You know, we only get one run at this. That's it. You get one go around in life, and that's all there is. And to me, my children will never be 15 and 11 again, and I better get the most out of those ages, 15 and 11, and just like I did when they were, 9 and 4. The same idea. There's also the balance for yourself. I train hard. I'm a weightlifter. I train. I try to train every day if I can, or at least 6 days a week. And I got to do it. I got to get in the gym, and I will tonight. I haven't worked out yet. I had a class earlier today. I did a show just about 20 minutes ago, a half hour ago with Dr. Jacqueline, and I'm doing the show now. But I have to have that balance. I have to be able to work out. So before I eat dinner, I'm going to go in the gym and lift some weights. So you have to have some time for yourself as well. Time management helps that. I promise you, you will increase your productivity if you use your time wisely. You, the time wasters are what cost you productivity. It really does. Now, in my case, I have a unique situation, and when I'm teaching a class, there is no wasted time whatsoever. There can't be. There can't be because I'm literally teaching. I'm live teaching people a class. So my productivity is very high because it's structured. Now, let's talk about if you don't have that type of situation. So let's say I have a client who says, "Look, Justin, we don't want to be trained. We would rather you build this spreadsheet for us." Well, that's a different story because if they tell me to build a spreadsheet, now I'm working on my own. It's not as structured. I have more control over it. And I have to make sure that I get it done, right? If I don't get it done or I don't get it done properly, then that company's not going to hire me back again. So I know that I need to get my work done. I need to get it done, and the quality's got to be there. But I also have to do it in an amount of time that makes sense. It can't be late. Identifying priorities. What are the priorities? And they can change from day to day. I might have been working on a project in March of 2020. And maybe the project started in January of 2020 and it was going very well. I was ahead of schedule. I was under budget. Great. Everything was beautiful. And then all of a sudden, around March 20th or so, bang, we have a pandemic and things just go completely off the rails. And all of a sudden, that project, which was priority one, slips and it becomes priority 5 because now other things are more important, like keeping the business afloat in a pandemic. Well, that's going to happen. I mean, that's not often that you're going to have something that dramatic, thank God. But there are other situations that come up which change priorities, and you have to be able to go with the flow and make those changes on the fly when need be, and of course, accomplish your goals. You know, if I have a project that needs to get done, and the goal of that project is to increase my training dollars by my revenue by 10%, I want to accomplish that. I want to make sure that that project wasn't done in vain. I want to get that 10% increase. Sometimes the goal of a project is tangible and sometimes it's intangible. A 10% growth in revenue is intangible. You can't hold it, you can't feel it, you can't touch it. If you're in an automotive company, your goal is to produce a vehicle and have it in showrooms by September, which is the new car year. So you want to accomplish those goals. Time management allows you to do all of this. It seems impossible sometimes when you look at all these different things. How do I control my stress, have life balance, increase productivity, identify priorities, and accomplish goals? Is it possible? And sometimes it seems like the answer is no, but it's not. You have control over it. You have to allot the time and you have to be able to stick to it. That's the other thing that we do. Every January we have our New Year's resolutions, and we say we're going to do something. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to eat better, or I'm going to go to the gym more, or I'm going to spend more time in the garden, or whatever it is that you want to do. I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. And usually by February, these things fall aside. It's rare, and it really is rare, that a person consciously makes a change and then sticks to that change and really goes with it. It can be done, but it takes discipline. It really does. You really have to work on it. If you can do something for 21 consecutive days, you set up a habit that's very tough to break, almost as tough to break as smoking. So get in the habit of managing your time. Create a task list if you have to. You could do it on paper if you want to go old school. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you have a daily planner, or if you want to do it new wave, you want to do it electronically, right? Maybe you want to create a task list in Outlook, or maybe you want to do it in another piece of software. Go for it. Microsoft Planner is another nice one that you could use. But try to stick to it, because if you don't, it'll never get done. It'll never get done. All right. So I'm going to jump around a little bit because again, this is about a 4-hour class. So we're obviously not covering 4 hours worth of material in half an hour. So the procrastinator, why do we procrastinate? Usually low self-esteem. And that doesn't mean that you don't feel good about yourself personally, but low self-esteem in relationship to what you're working on. If I have to work on a class, for me, I'm just going to be honest with you. If I'm working on a class and it's a piece of software, or it's some material that I'm not comfortable with, and I don't feel that I'm an expert on, and I really feel like I need to learn a lot, I'm more likely to procrastinate and put that off because it's painful, right? It doesn't feel good to feel like I don't know enough. And you don't want to have that feeling. So it's easy to say, you know what? We'll take care of it tomorrow. But then when tomorrow comes, we don't want to put ourselves in that situation to feel inferior again. So what do? We say, well, we could always do it tomorrow. All of a sudden, you run out of tomorrows. And now you're at the point where you have to get it done. I've done this myself many times, and I know better. And that's the thing is sometimes you have to push yourself even when you don't feel like doing it. Perpetually late. That's a pattern. I can't tell you how many times I've run classes and I've had the same people in the classes, and the same people show up late every time. Every time. And it's difficult. It's difficult because just when I start a class, I start it with all the things, the agenda and what we're going to do and how we're going to go through it. And then if 5 people come in late, I got to go back and backtrack and do that all over again, right? So now I'm wasting other people's time trying to catch the people up who were not there. So when you're late, you're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting the other people. So you try not to be late. Things come up, of course, of course. And I understand that. And what we're talking about here is perpetually late. There's a difference between occasionally late and perpetually late. So perpetually late would be a pattern. A perfectionist. How many people scrap what they're doing and start over again? And then scrap it again and start over. And scrap it again and start over. Don't let great be the enemy of good enough. I'm not saying settle. I'm not saying don't do your best. But at some point, you have to look at your work and say, this is good enough, because you're never going to reach perfection. It's just not going to happen. We're not perfect. There could be many great things that you do in a PowerPoint presentation or in a class that you teach or in a project that you run, and it's wonderful, but it's never going to be perfect. And if you continue to go and try to reach for perfection and you don't eventually say, you know what, this is good enough, I think this will work, then you'll never get done. It'll never end, right? That's so important. Easily distracted. I think all of us are at times. Excessive multitasking. Again, checking your email every 2 minutes is not a good recipe for success. Checking social media every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. It's not a good recipe for success, because you're stalling your momentum. You're constantly saying, well, you're not saying, but you're constantly sabotaging yourself, because you're moving in the right direction, and then you stop and you go do something else that really deviates from the plan. So try not to be distracted and do it all. Limitations are not a weakness. Dr. Jacqueline and I were talking right before this session, and one of the things that I wanted to learn how to do for my business, I learned to do a lot for myself. I learned how to build my own website. I learned how to market a little bit. I learned how to do some sales. Although, in all honesty, I've been very upfront about this. I'm not a great salesperson. It's not my forte. But I wanted to learn from my website how to do SEO, site engine optimization, and I learned that I can't do it. I can't do it. There are over 200 factors that go into SEO, and they change a lot. This is Google that changes the way that site engine optimization works, and I, I can't become an expert in that. And I think we hear this a lot, especially during the pandemic. I've heard this a lot. I hear people a lot say, "Do your own research." Yeah. I believe personally that I should listen to experts when they say that something needs to be done. When I go to my doctor and my doctor says, Justin, you need to do this for your health, I do it. Why? Because I don't have any other choice. I can't, I'm not in a position to say to that doctor, I think you're wrong. I am going to do my own research and I know better. I can't know better. There's no way for me to go home and jump on the internet and then become an infectious disease expert in a week. It just doesn't happen. We just can't do that. So I have to know what my limitations are. If my doctor says, "Look, Justin," and I didn't want to have surgery. Believe me, back in 2015, when they said, "Look, you're going to have your colon removed," I wasn't real enthused about that. That wasn't something that I was excited to do. But I didn't say, let me do my own research and I'll get back to you and decide whether that's the right move. I asked the doctor, what can I do to save myself from colon cancer? And the doctor said, well, you're going to have your colon removed. And I did it. I didn't want to do it, but that was what needed to be done. And I think today we have this strange way of thinking that we can become experts in everything if we just do a Google search or if we spend time reading. You can learn. I'm not saying that you can't learn. I'm not saying don't become educated. That's important. But you got to admit and you got to understand that there's certain things that you can and cannot do and accept that. So for me in business, SEO, I'm not even trying to do it anymore. It's a waste of my time because I'm just not able to do it. It's not one of my strengths. It's a weakness. So I either hire somebody else to do it or I just can't do it. Just the way it is. Okay. It's not saying that you're bad or you're not good. It's just that you have to make a decision. And then the one that I missed there, I sorry about that. There was one more, and it was indecisive. We got to make hard choices sometimes. How are we going to promote our business? What are we going to do to promote the business? If you're an entrepreneur, are you going to get, like we talked about before, the go cards, the electronic business cards that I work with? That's a decision that you got to make. There's a cost to that, right? Will it work for you? I think it will, but you have to decide that. What decisions do you have to make? If you are running a project and your project is behind schedule and it's over budget, what tasks are you going to remove from the project? We call that reducing scope. If my project is 5 weeks overdue and it's $10,000 over budget, I got to decide if I'm going to remove some tasks, reduce scope. Am I going to change relationships of tasks so that they don't start in succession? Maybe they could start simultaneously to save time. They're tough decisions that need to be made, but that's part of the deal. So these are the personality types that sometimes cost us when we're talking about time management. Okay. I just have a couple more minutes. So I want to quickly go over one thing that you might have heard of before. It's the Pareto principle. And I just want to end with that because it's a really important thing. So 20% of effects come from 20% of causes. And what that means is that the most success that you're going to have, 80% of your success comes from the top 20% of the tasks that you do, the 20% at the highest in your list. So make a list of tasks for the day and put in deadlines and get that done, because the top 20% tasks that you have, when you get them done, you will have done 80% of the effect. How do I say this? That your 80% of your success will come from those top 20% tasks. It's the 80-20 rule, right? Record each task during the day and note the interruptions. Where did you get interrupted? You know, where were the problems, and head those off, because later on you'll be able to find where those interruptions were and then be proactive so they don't happen again. Record how much time you spend on each task and then analyze, is it worth it? Did I spend the appropriate amount of time? Should I spend more? Should I spend less? Okay. And evaluate the time spent on the priority tasks. Again, the top 20% on your task list will be 80% of your success. That's a huge number. It's the 80-20 rule, right? You wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. The same shirts, the same pants, the same shoes. You spend so you have all these clothes in your closet, right? You wear 20% of what you own 80% of the time. It's the 80-20 rule. It applies to so many different things in life. It includes time management. Okay? So in closing, I just want to remind you that, if you like what you saw here, if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, I do classes on this. They're about 4 hours, and I do it for companies. I can do them online, but I prefer to do them in person if at all possible, because I think it's better to be in the room with other people. So you can contact me again. It's www.justforyoutc.com, justforyoutc.com. My email address is justin@justforyoutc.com, all spelled out. And my cell number is 610-324-5545. I want to thank everyone for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this talking head session. Don't miss all the wonderful shows that we have here on USA Global TV. It's an amazing place. Dr. Jacqueline has done a phenomenal job of making this just a great place for growth. So take advantage of that, and I will see you next time.